Okay, part two with the sleeve. And my battery's going to die soon, so I gotta do that too. Alright, part two with the sleeve. So the more that I researched the sleeve, the idea of removing 70% of my stomach still freaked me out, just as much as the gastric bypass freaked me out. However, it seemed to me like a really good hybrid between the lap band and the gastric bypass. I get basically gastric bypass, there's like an 80% success rate for weight loss, 80% of your weight above normal is removed, okay, through that. With gastric sleeve, about 70% of weight loss is able to be achieved on average, and then with lap band, it's about 50 to 60% of weight loss. So I like the weight loss at odds, but again, I can't just make my judgments based on, selfish weight loss wants. So I looked into it a little bit more. Now, the biggest difference between the sleeve and the bypass is, and again, I'm not a doctor, so this is from my research, is that the intestines are not rerouted. Therefore, you have your sphincter in the bottom of your stomach that still helps regulate your food getting deposited into your small intestine. Because of this, you are less likely to be intolerant of sugar, because your body does not get all the sugar dumped into its system at once. It siphons it still. Also, because of this, generally you don't have as much malabsorption issues. Well, that's not because of it. Because you have still most of your stomach wall is still intact. You don't have a little pouch and then the rerouting of the intestines. There's more stomach surface with the sleeve. Therefore, you absorb vitamins a little bit more. I liked those odds a little bit more. Higher risk of leak because with a bypass, you have a small pouch stitch, then you have the stitch around your small intestine, and then you have the stitch where the small intestine attaches to your original stomach that's still producing all the hormones that goes into, which is why sometimes it's called a Roux en Y, because it makes a Y. I didn't like the idea that there's more stitching on the sleeve because I have a longer stitch along my stomach. So there's a little bit of a higher risk of leaks with the sleeve. However, there's still a high risk of leaks with the bypass because you've got 3 different points of sutures or staples rather than the one. But it's not as much because you don't have as much pressure. Whereas in the sleeve, all the food dumps to the bottom. It's kind of like a hot dog. All the food will dump to the bottom. Puts a lot of pressure on this bottom stitch right here, which is why people can have leaks. Through more research, I learned that UC Davis actually double folds that area and double stitches and they hand stitch and then they staple in there to reinforce that area. And they also, at UC Davis, leave a little extra room in your stomach down below because they know that's the dumping point for all your food before it goes to the sphincter to get put into your small intestine. So they leave a little bit more room down there as well to help buy a little bit more leeway with that. So the more that I researched it, less malabsorption of vitamins. I could still tolerate sugar, even though I should say last night I had dumping syndrome. I took NyQuil, which had sugar in it, and I had diarrhea, really bad, upset stomach, like 3 hours later, which was dumping syndrome. I was shaky, I felt crampy, it was horrible. So it doesn't eliminate dumping syndrome, but it definitely, I can have sugary things, and like I had sangria the other day. That's a lot of fruit juice. I didn't have dumping syndrome with that. I've had low-fat ice cream since I've been on the sleeve, and I didn't have dumping syndrome with that. But if I overdo it with the sugar, I will get it. Whereas generally with gastric bypass, people tend to have more sensitivity with sugar. I don't think they can really have any sugar. Carbonated beverages. You cannot have carbonated beverages anymore with gastric bypass. You cannot have carbonated beverages anymore with gastric sleeve because the carbonation bloats your stomach and you put stress and you can stretch out your new stomach. I don't like carbonated beverages, so that really was moot for me. I know sometimes that's a make or break for a lot of people. I didn't care. The most I ever drank was club soda, and now I can have water, so I don't really care. Food intolerances. People with gastric bypass tend to be a little bit more intolerant of food because they've shrunk their stomach down so much. I have heard a lot of stories of people who have major food intolerances with sleeve. I happen not to really be one of them. I've only had 2 things that have irritated my stomach. Red wine, which really aggravated the acid in my stomach, and what was the other one that I had that really bothered my stomach? Oh, lettuce. If I have very kind of hard, like romaine lettuce that's very veiny and tough, my body does not digest that very easily. So those are things that I've had some issue with intolerance with. But other than that, I wouldn't even say it's intolerant. It was just, I have to retrain my body to do it. So I'm just going to phase them back in very, very slowly. Maybe not the red wine. I don't know. So those are things. So with the sleeve, it's a little more extreme. It's more permanent. But at the same time, my mindset was I really wanted to make a permanent lifestyle change. And for me, even though it's scary, the idea that I can't look back after the surgery, at the same time, I really felt mentally and physically I needed some sort of intervention to keep permanent weight loss off and to be a better example for my kids. Which leads me to the next question you guys asked me, and I'll get the exact question here. Basically, how did my family react, and am I going to tell my kids when the time comes? Family reacted well, and most definitely I will tell my kids. I have a no lying to my kids policy. So, and that includes my high school kids. So, because I consider them my children as well. So, family reaction. My mom gasped and almost started crying when I first told her. Because, again, she was like me, and she only kind of associated these procedures with people who were morbidly obese. And she didn't think I was there yet. The more that I talked with my parents, they are very logical and also very into research. My mom, not so much. She's more emotional. The more I talked to my dad about the facts, the medical facts, I sent him a bunch of articles, I talked with him about the conversations I had with my surgeon, the more my dad got behind me and realized that there was actually higher risks for me to stay obese and to continue to get more obese than there was for me at this level of obesity that I was at to change things for the better. And to have less complications as I got older. Because, with everything there comes a risk. With any major surgery there comes a risk, and that's why my parents were really nervous. I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings to run it by. So they were nervous about the fact that their surgery, it was major surgery. At the same time, my weight and my health were the best it was ever going to be to have a surgery like this. As I got older, my risk got higher. As I get heavier, my risk got higher. My heart health was excellent because I trained really hard with trainers for the last couple of years. So physically, even though I was obese, I was very fit. And so my risks, surgical risks, were very low. They're still there. They never go away, but they were very low. So as we talked more and more, we agreed that this is actually going to, if I was going to do this, this is the best time to do it because this is the lowest risk that it was going to be. My husband was instantaneously approving. And it's not because, the weight loss and blah, blah, blah. He's not an asshole. Pardon my French. But he has seen me really depressed and upset with my weight ever since we started dating. And we started dating when I was 19. And he knows I don't enter anything lightly. And he knows that I researched the bejesus out of things. And so he was very supportive of it. Instantaneously. He was like, if you think this is the right thing to do, I trust that this is the right thing to do for you. And he was a great sounding board for me. When I was having doubts, we would talk about it. He would talk a little bit about his doubts and stuff. We worked a lot of it out together. And he was 100% supportive from day one. And I'm always really thankful about that. So Mark's family, not as supportive. I think he comes from a food is love family, and they're supportive of me. They're supportive of the kids. They're supportive of helping out with the surgery. They've never said anything ill to me at all. But I know that they didn't 100% approve of it. I think they would rather I had not done the surgery. They thought it was an unnecessary risk, and they also didn't think I was having enough to have it. At the same time, they've never said anything ill to me or have been ever cruel. They've been nothing but supportive. I don't think they agree with my decision, but they've supported my decision. And so in those ways, I've been very lucky.